Okay guys, just moving on with our soft tissue work, we're going to have a look at what we do to roll the quads. Now also understand that with this SMR, this self-myofascial release stuff, that at the time of filming this, we don't really know what it does. Right? Once upon a time we used to sort of say it might break up adhesions and fascia and in the fascia or scar tissue or something like that. That's not the case. It's a fairly new area of study, and the literature all kind of comes to the same conclusion that we don't really know what happens. But good stuff tends to happen, right? People tend to feel better, they tend to move a bit more freely afterwards. So personally, I still have this in all of my clients' programs. I think it's still a valuable tool, even if we don't know the exact mechanisms behind it. Okay, so a key part of that soft tissue work will be working the quadriceps. Reason being, they're heavy duty muscles, they cop a lot of work. You know, you're going to hit them in all your big leg exercises, so they're generally pretty beaten up. In particular, rectus femoris, or rec fem, being that it crosses two joints, right? It crosses the knee, crosses the hip, and that's generally the culprit where people will struggle with their half kneeling stretch, which then becomes split squat. You can refer to my split squat progressions video, I'll link that down below. But if that's tight, we often see either they try to get away from it by flexing at the hip, or they try to sink everything forward, right? So we don't have as much knee flexion. Either way, they're trying to get away from one end of that tight rec fem. And that can be useful as sort of a screening for if your soft tissue work is relevant or not, whether this is a limiting factor. So if you've got somebody who you take them into that split squat and they're really struggling to get in that position, try this out. Find the worst leg of that split squat, and I'm talking about the back leg because that's where the stretch is. Hammer them out with this little soft tissue drill, and then go in and retest that side, see if it doesn't make it better. If it's not, you might be looking at something else. You might just have to coach the movement a little bit differently, work on the movement patterns, find there's not something else going on, that it's not core related, something in the ankle, or even something in the foot or the toes. That restrictions there can affect a lot of those movements, right? But very often it can be some sort of soft tissue restriction, we'll call it, again, because we don't know exactly what it is, but doing this tends to improve that pattern. So to roll the quads, and where I think a lot of people go wrong with this for starters is they use the typical long, white or blue foam rollers. Other than rank beginners, I think most people should get onto something a little bit denser. The grid's handy. I recommend this for people for travel as well because it's hollow inside, you can stuff stuff in there. A bit of PVC pipe, and in a minute I'm going to show you the hockey ball. But also being short, it means you can only get one leg on it. And people who've got the wide one, they tend to put both legs on it and there's not a lot of pressure going on there, and they kind of just go through the motions. So if we get this onto that one leg, right, I hope you can see me there. So I start pretty high, and you can see I shift all my weight over into that leg. I use this left foot just to steer, and once I find a good spot, for me right there, right in the belly of the muscle, I'm going to engage my core a little bit of abs, a bit of glutes, because here I'm essentially doing a plank, right? So I don't just want to crank on my lower back like this. So engage myself, hold myself firm into the ground, this forearm. I'm going to lift that foot off the ground and put all my weight into it, right? And when I do that, I can find some pretty tender spots. And what I'm going to do is work all the way down, right? Bit by bit, staying there for as long as I need to let it release. Move on. I might try various different techniques. I might stay still on it. I might palpate it a little bit. I might roll over it. I don't think there's one better than the other, even though people tend to keep suggesting the way to foam roll. Find what's going to work for you. Find which gives you the most release. So right down, and then you'll tend to find a lot of people will find some tender spots down towards the knee as well. Right, they tend to be the people that, when they're doing that split squat, they'll complain about it really pulling on that back knee. Right, so if you look a little bit medial, a little bit lateral, often right down in VMO and VO where they insert down near the knee, they can be a bit tender. So if we dig right down near the knee there, oops, memory card run out, hopefully I can edit this back together. But basically, I was finished with the grid, I've just rolled down the quads using that more sort of a blunter object. Now we're going to get a bit more focal with the hockey ball, use a lacrosse ball, something hard. So now, find that sweet spot right in the middle. Look for a key spot. There we go. And now we're going to do what I call flossing. I'm not sure who I stole that term off, but I'm sure I stole it from somebody. But basically finding that key spot in the belly of the muscle and then taking the knee through flexion, extension. Right? And what happens there is that we've got the muscle sliding between a hard object and whatever's underneath it, bone and denser tissue, so the muscle kind of drags through. We get that flossing effect. And whatever good things are happening there that tend to free it up, we'll just call it improved tissue quality. That tends to make us move a bit freer, and then we can go and retest that. So go back into that half kneeling position, that split squat pattern, moving through it. If it improves, you're on the right track. Keep doing it for a while until that pattern sticks and people are able to do that without having to be so aggressive with their soft tissue work. If not, you might have to go look somewhere else, but a lot of the time this will be a key culprit. So be aggressive there in the quads, and then you can usually back it off to maintenance mode, not have to be so focal, maybe not have to use the hockey ball as often, if at all. You might just be able to maintain that quality movement by doing the movement itself and not having to focus so much on the actual soft tissue work. So try that out, see how you go.